You shuffle the cards. You don't know why you trust them. But you do. You lay one down, and somehow it feels like the card already knew the question before you asked it. Here is what almost nobody tells you. This deck was never built to read your future. It was built to win a game in the court of a Renaissance duke. In the 1440s, Filippo Maria Visconti, the Duke of Milan, commissioned a set of hand-painted cards for his family. Historians call this deck the Visconti Sforza Tarot, and it is the oldest substantial tarot deck that survives today. The game played with it was called tarocchi, a trick-taking card game. Not unlike bridge, there was no fortune-telling. There was no secret doctrine. There was only a court, a deck of painted nobles and virtues, and an afternoon of cards. For nearly 300 years, that's all tarot was, a game. So when did it become a system for divination? The practice of reading symbols to reveal hidden truths? And more importantly, who hid that system, and why? The answer begins with a Frenchman who never once held an authentic ancient Egyptian text in his hands. In 1781, a scholar and Freemason named Antoine Court de Gebelin published a sprawling work called Le Monde Primitif. In it, he made an extraordinary claim. He argued that tarot was not a Renaissance game at all, but a surviving fragment of ancient Egyptian wisdom, smuggled into Europe by priests fleeing the destruction of their temples. He called it the Book of Thoth, after the Egyptian god of writing and magic. There was no evidence for this. None. Modern Egyptology didn't even exist yet. The Rosetta Stone wouldn't be deciphered for another 40 years. But the claim was irresistible. It gave a simple card game the weight of lost civilization. And once that myth took hold, tarot stopped being a pastime and started becoming a mystery. The next man to shape that mystery was a former Catholic seminarian turned occultist, who wrote under the name Eliphas Lévi. In 1854, in a book called Dogme et Rituel de la Haute Magie, known in English as Transcendental Magic, Lévi did something no one had done before. He mapped the 22 trump cards of the tarot onto the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And from there, onto the Kabbalah's Tree of Life, a diagram of 10 interconnected points said to represent the stages by which the divine descends into the material world. Suddenly, tarot wasn't just symbolic, it was structural. Every card now corresponded to a letter, a path, a cosmic principle. Lévi had built an entire hidden architecture inside a deck of playing cards. But he didn't publish it as an open invitation. He published it as a key. And keys are only useful to people who already know there's a lock. This is where the real hiding begins. Not in antiquity. In London, in 1888. That year, 3 Freemasons, William Wynne Westcott, Samuel Liddell Mathers, and William Robert Woodman, founded the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. The Golden Dawn took Lévi's Tarot Kabbalah system and expanded it into one of the most detailed occult curriculums ever assembled, linking each card to a Hebrew letter, a planet or zodiac sign, an element, and a precise location on the Tree of Life. And then they locked it away. Initiates swore oaths of secrecy before they were shown a single correspondence. The teachings circulated only as handwritten papers, copied by hand, never printed, never sold. Why guard a card game this closely? Because to the Golden Dawn, tarot wasn't entertainment, and it wasn't fortune-telling either. It was a working model of the human soul's ascent through stages of consciousness. And a model like that, they believed, was dangerous in untrained hands. Picture an initiate inside a Golden Dawn temple room. Black drapes line the walls. A single candle burns at the center of a chalk-drawn diagram of the Tree of Life. The initiate has already taken an oath of secrecy, hand on a sword, swearing never to reveal what comes next. Now a senior member places one tarot card on the floor before them and begins to speak. Not about luck, not about the future, but about which Hebrew letter this card carries, which planetary force it channels, and which exact point on the Tree of Life it unlocks. This was not a reading. It was an initiation into a private map of inner transformation, one card at a time. 2 of the Golden Dawn's own members would eventually break that silence. In very different ways, Arthur Edward Waite left the order and, in 1909, published a deck designed with artist Pamela Coleman Smith, now known as the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. It became the most widely reproduced tarot deck in history. But Waite still held back. He hinted at the deeper correspondences without spelling them out, honoring the oath even as he opened the door. Aleister Crowley held nothing back. After his own falling out with the Golden Dawn, he spent years designing the Thoth Tarot with the painter Lady Frida Harris, and in 1944 published the Book of Thoth, a dense manual laying out the full Kabbalistic and astrological structure that had once required a secret oath to even glimpse. What had been guarded for 60 years was now sitting on a bookstore shelf. The final break came from Israel Regardie, a former secretary to Crowley and a Golden Dawn initiate in his own right. Between 1937 and 1940, Regardie published the order's complete rituals, grade structures, and tarot correspondences in a 4-volume work simply called The Golden Dawn. Everything that had once cost an oath now cost the price of a book. So why was tarot really hidden for centuries? Not because it held literal ancient Egyptian secrets. As de Gebelin claimed, that part was myth from the very start. It was hidden because a handful of 19th-century occultists built something genuinely powerful. A layered map of psychological and spiritual development disguised inside 78 painted cards. And they understood that a map like that means something different depending on who is holding it. Here's the twist nobody mentions when they called tarot ancient. The most precious thing about tarot was never old. It was new, deliberately constructed, and guarded the way any inventor guards a working prototype. The tree of life paths, the planetary attributions, the elemental dignities, all of it is younger than the United States Constitution. What's old is the human instinct underneath it, the need for a structured way to examine the self. And that instinct didn't disappear once the secrecy ended. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, took a serious interest in tarot precisely because of this. He saw the cards as a deck of archetypes, recurring symbolic figures, the Fool, the Hierophant, the Tower, that could surface unconscious material when a person sat with them honestly. Jung never claimed the cards predicted anything. He suspected they did something subtler. They gave the unconscious mind a structured surface to project itself onto. That's what's actually happening when you shuffle the deck today. Your mind isn't consulting fate. Your mind is using a 400-year-old game, reshaped by 2 centuries of Kabbalists, Freemasons, and one disgraced French scholar with a beautiful but false theory. As a mirror built so carefully that the people who built it locked the workshop door behind them. You shuffle the cards again. You still don't know exactly why you trust them, but maybe you don't need ancient Egypt for that trust to mean something. Maybe the secret was never that the cards could see your future. The secret was that someone, a long time ago, built them so carefully that you could finally see yourself.